Till now, we have seen various important causes behind the rise of Nazism in Germany. Now, while we have reviewed many political, economic, and associated causes, let us today look at a particular social cause and some other causes which caused the rise of Nazism in Germany. In this lesson, we would be looking at the final few causes and concluding the discussion around the rise of Nazism and its causes. The first cause we would be looking at would be the anti-Semitic propaganda undertaken by the Nazi party. Now, we have discussed that Nazism is basically fascism with racialism added. But what was this racialism? Who was this racialism or discrimination targeted towards? That particular discussion brings us to anti-Semitism itself. Now, what is anti-Semitism? So, anti-Semitism is a form of racialism which involves hostility to or a violent attitude to, prejudice towards, or having preconceived negative notions towards, or discrimination against, or having unequal treatment against which community? The Jews. So, therefore, we understand that anti Semitism is racialism targeted towards the Jews. But who are these Jews? The Jews are an ethno-religious group, or they're ethnically and also religiously Jews. So they're an ethno-religious group who originate from the current day Israel. Israel is in the Middle East and they practice the religion of Judaism. So the Jews are an ethno-religious group originating from the current day Israel who practice the religion Judaism. Now this question must come to your mind: why are we talking about a community or an ethno-religious group who are belonging from the Middle East while discussing a propaganda or a policy of Germany which is in Europe? Well, this is because the Jews are a traveling group, or had been for centuries a traveling group, and they were mostly traders and they are involved in commerce. And thus, through traveling, they were very prominently involved and based in Europe as well. Now, can you answer this question? Anti-Semitism is racialism against Jews, Christians, Buddhists, or Hindus. The correct answer happens to be anti-Semitism is racialism against the Jews. Now, while the Jews were situated and pretty prominently involved in Europe, the Europeans themselves did not like the Jews that much. In fact, they had a certain hatred against the Jews. And this is primarily because of two set of reasons. One happens to be cultural and religious, the other happens to be economic. So let us first look at the cultural side of things. So it is important to understand that majority of Europe happens to be Christian. Now in medieval Europe, there came up a notion that the Jews as a community were responsible for the death of Christ, the death of Jesus Christ, around whom the entirety of the religion of Christianity is based, was said to be killed or was sent to his death by the treachery of the Jews. Now this was a notion, a particular association created with the death of Christ and the Jewish community. But this association itself with such a grave sin was enough for the Europeans to dislike or hate the Jews. Now this particular notion led to many kingdoms and countries of Europe to ban Jews from even owning lands in these states. Now in this particular illustration, we can see an example of the severity of the notion that was held that the Jews were responsible for the death of Christ. We can see a Bible illustration where it's shown that Jesus over here is looking over the Christians over here, taking revenge on the Jews for killing Christ. Now this itself is a New Testament illustration. The New Testament is not really the original Bible. It was the addition to the Bible made by Christian kings who came and adopted Christianity. And it already goes against the very idea of Christ, as Christ said that forgive those who do not know that they have sinned. And this clearly is no example of forgiveness. Now however twisted this notion must be, this already was enough to set a base for the anti-Semitism of Europe. The other reason why the Europeans did not like the Jews was because of their affluence, their prosperity, how rich they were. The Jews, since the very beginning, had been involved in banking, trade, money lending, and similar commercial activities, which led to their affluence. Now, the European kings and leaders, they feared this affluence of the Jews. They thought that the very existence of the Jews in their countries and kingdoms would threaten the local traders and would eventually lead to the accumulation of all the wealth in the hands of a minority. That too, a religious minority like the Jews, who had been associated with the death of the very person whose ideology and religion had been the majority of Europe. And therefore, the European kings decided to boycott or ban the Jews from conducting trade or also from owning property in their states. Soon enough, this concept came up. The Jews could easily be blamed for everything that's going wrong. So soon enough, what the European kings and leaders realized is that the public already hates the Jews. And therefore, it's very easy to shift any blame on the Jewish shoulders and could easily pass that off. And that is why the European kings and the leaders started to make the Jews into scapegoats. Scapegoating is a concept where you push the blame on someone else's shoulders and are now free from that blame. So whenever a crisis occurred and the public wanted to blame whoever held power, these leaders could easily shift the blame, could easily misdirect the people into targeting their frustrations into the Jewish community, who became their scapegoats, and therefore the Jews were held responsible for anything that went wrong with the state. And this became a very common occurrence in medieval and even modern Europe. And in this picture you can see that Jews are being persecuted. They are being killed for the alleged blame on them for causing the Black Death plague. Now, the Black Death plague was not caused by the Jews, it was caused by rats who carried infection on their back and who managed to travel from other far lands into Europe through trading ships. But at that time, this information was not known. And when the public wanted to know why the people are dying at such an alarming rate, the leaders thought, why not blame it on the Jews? They blamed the Jews for poisoning the wells and then told the public that it was the Jews who were killing the Europeans. And that is how many Jews were persecuted for this alleged blame. Similarly, the Jews were blamed for anything from plagues to disasters to defeat in wars and other similar problems for the state and society of Europe. Now, this sets the base for the modern European anti-Semitism. Now, soon enough, what the scapegoating of the Jews did is that it affirmed a particular notion that the Jews are an inferior race, that they are inferior to the white Caucasian Europeans. So now the Jewish religion no longer was the issue. And this is even more disastrous because a person can give away their religion, but they could not give away their race. So the Jewish as a people was the target now, and they were considered to be inferior. The ultimate height of this modern European anti-Semitism, however, was Hitler's anti-Semitic propaganda and his policies regarding the Jews. Now, all this discussion into the history of European anti-Semitism was so that we can understand that this anti-Semitic propaganda was not Hitler's original invention. What he did was, however, scale it to a level of unforeseen disaster. What he did is he turned this negative sentiment against the community into mass killing, into genocide. And that is something we would be looking at. So let us see the creation and evolution of Hitler's anti-Semitic propaganda in Germany, especially in interwar Germany now. So Hitler, like most other Germans, was devastated to receive the news that along with the Central Powers, Germany had surrendered in the First World War. Now, since Hitler was an aggressive nationalist, he could not accept that his country has been defeated. Instead, he started to blame other aspects of society, such as the politicians and other minority communities. Now, this was not just done by Hitler, but by majority of the public, since, as we have mentioned, Germany had been aggressively nationalist since the very beginning and also had a particular pride associated with the military itself. And therefore, after the end of the First World War and after the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, many rumors and anti-democratic sentiments started to propagate. Now, these particular rumors was not stand alone, as I mentioned, it was fueled by centuries of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism was not an interwar invention, it had existed, and now century-old anti-Semitic idea is now fueling further rumors. Now, what this did is that it made the Germans shift the blame of the defeat in the war and the economic collapse which followed the war on the politicians, as we have mentioned, as we have seen previously, how the people perceive the politicians, especially the ones who signed the Treaty of Versailles, as criminals or the ones who betrayed the army. So that we already have seen. But at the same time, they also started to target minority groups, and primarily of them were the Jews. Now, this is because of a particular myth that was propagating in Germany at this time, known as the stab in the back myth. Now, what the stab in the back myth really said is that the German nation or the German army would have never surrendered on its own and would have fought ahead if it was not betrayed or stabbed in the back by people of their own nation. Now, who are these people? The minority groups, primarily the Jews and the politicians. Now, what this particular myth said is that the Jews who were fighting in the war were actually all spying for the Allies, and this led to the devastation and disaster that the German army faced in the war. At the same time, the other Jews who did not participate in the war were called traitors, and labels were put upon them that they did not fight in the war because they wanted to see Germany fall. And such similar myths kept on spreading, and it kept on adding to this stab in the back myth. Let's look at this illustration from an Austrian postcard which shows a German soldier who is fighting at the front line, ready to go ahead with the war, but unfortunately he is being stabbed in the back by a caricatured Jewish person. So it shows that a Jewish community is stabbing the German army in the back, leading to their defeat. Now, Hitler too soon started to believe that if they removed the Jews from the society, Germany would prosper again. And therefore, they decided to make this a core aspect of their party's ideology and policies, which at the same time not only got them immense popularity, it also helped them go ahead and tell the people to shift the blame, to target their frustrations, and therefore keep the people engaged in this particular blame game where the Nazi party keeps on rising in fame, influence and popularity. So what the Nazis did is that they increasingly popularized this particular myth and also gave an idea that to reclaim prominence of Germany, these backstabbers, primarily the democratic leaders and also the Jewish community itself, they were to be removed from the country, and only then prominence could be achieved. And thus started the anti-Semitic propaganda and all anti-Semitic policies of the Nazi party even before they came to power. Nazi party convinced people that Jewish businesses were to be boycotted. The Jews were to be stopped from gaining more affluence and wealth, and therefore their businesses were to be boycotted. Now, this boycotting of the Jewish businesses eventually became a state policy when the Nazi party came to power, as you can see in this illustration how the German army is asking the people or is stopping the people from even approaching the gates of the Jewish businesses, therefore having a state-sponsored boycott of Jewish businesses. So the Jews socially were treated like subhumans. They were not even given the status or not even given the recognition that humans got, as they were considered to be an inferior race and group. And finally, when the Nazi party eventually came to power, the Jews were also separated from mainstream society and put into restricted neighborhoods known as ghettos. Now, all these anti Semitic policies and encouragements given to the people to follow these policies eventually culminated into the Holocaust. The Holocaust was Hitler's translation of anti Semitic sentiments into widespread killing of the Jews. So, when the Nazis eventually came to power and they realized that the Jews were to be removed from society, they came up with a final solution: how to deal with the Jews for once and for all. And thus came the deadly concept of the Holocaust, which was Hitler's anti Semitic genocide. Now, what is a genocide? A genocide is a mass killing deliberately targeted towards certain groups or a certain group. Now, these groups could be religious, ethnic, or even ethno-religious. So it's a mass killing or the killing of a large number of people, and this killing is not at random, and however it is deliberately targeted towards certain groups. And in this particular case, the genocide was targeted towards the Jewish community. So the word Holocaust comes from the Greek word holokausto, which is a sacrificial offering. Now, in the times of ancient Greece, animals were often sacrificed to please the gods. Hitler therefore came up with the concept of the Holocaust, where he wanted to sacrifice this inferior community of people who betrayed their country, and by sacrificing them, he wanted to appease the upper forces, and in sacrificing them, he wanted to earn the prosperity of Germany back. What the Holocaust really was is that it was a systematic genocide or a targeted and planned genocide or mass killing of the European Jews. It was undertaken by the Nazi state during the Second World War. Now, the Holocaust happens to be a horrid memory of human history, one of the biggest targeted mass killings in human history. But to understand the Holocaust and all the horrors behind it, we have to see the evolution of the anti-Semitic propaganda and also the creation and birth of anti-Semitic policies of the Nazi state after the First World War, as we will be seeing later in this chapter. But if you wish to know more about the Holocaust and also learn the story of a Holocaust survivor, you can click on the link below to access the iDictionary feature. The next cause behind the rise of Nazism in Germany happens to be a German characteristic itself, which was militant German nationalism. Now, we have discussed about aggressive nationalism in the past, which happens to be is love for your country, which makes you prioritize the interest of your country over the other. Now, what happens when you mix aggressive nationalism with economic competition over colonies and resources and acute international tension over secret diplomacy and secret treaties? What is formed is militant nationalism, or the ultimate form of aggressive nationalism, where a country will wage outright wars to achieve their goals of prioritizing or proving that their country is the best. Therefore, militant nationalism makes a country even wage wars to prove a point that their country happens to be the best. Now, we have discussed the militant nature of Germany in the past as well, and we have seen how Germany had been primarily a militant state since the time of its inception. And we don't have to look any further than the very personification of the German nation to understand how militant Germany really is. So, the personification of a nation is how the people of a nation perceive their country to be if it were a human. In India, we have Bharat Mata as the personification of our country, and in Germany, there exists Germania. Now, Germania is a symbol of Germany itself, and you can see how she is shown carrying a sword, which shows her readiness to fight. And therefore, Germania is also a symbol of German militant nationalism. Now, this was a concept, or this was a symbol of the early 19th century when times were different. But what we see is Germany retained and held on to its militant nationalism even after that in the contemporary period as well. So, what we see is that this militant German nationalism grew rapidly after the German defeat in the First World War. Now, you can ask, how can militant nationalism grow more after they had been defeated in the war? Should it not change? Well, it did not. And this is because of one simple reason. The Germans wanted revenge. The Germans wanted to avenge the humiliation they faced at the Paris Peace Conference, out of which came up the Treaty of Versailles and all similar allied policies towards Germany. They wanted to show the allied nations what the true character of Germany is, how ready it is to fight, and the moment they get a chance, they will pounce upon the allied nations. So they wanted revenge, and therefore, instead of reducing, the militant nationalism of Germany kept on rapidly increasing in the interwar period. The people wanted a leader or a government which will truly be correct for taking revenge, who is strong enough for taking revenge from the Allies. But what the people realize is that the current government, the Weimar Republic, is incapable to execute this task. Therefore, the Weimar Republic was not what Germany wanted, was not the capable leader or power to lead Germany and finally get its prominence back. What the people of Germany wanted was a strong man, a man who would hold all power in his hand, who would be capable to execute this power, a man who would be fiercely nationalistic, only thinking about his country, and a man who would not even think twice to even wage war just to get the position and the respect of Germany back. So what the people of Germany really wanted was the Superman. Now, this Superman is not what you think it is. It's a Superman or an Übermensch, which is a concept created by the German philosopher Nietzsche. Now, we have seen how Nietzsche's ideas and concepts were popular in this particular time, and this particular Übermensch concept was taken by the totalitarian leaders to justify their hold over power. Hitler did the same thing. He portrayed himself to be this Übermensch. And what the people really wanted was the same. So when the people were in this deliberate search for a strong man or an Übermensch, who do you think came up in the picture? Hitler himself. And this brings us to the final cause of the rise of Nazism in Germany, and that cause is a unique cause because this cause involves Hitler himself and the cult of personality he created around him due to his charismatic leadership capabilities. Now, Hitler's charisma itself was a reason why Nazism rose up like a torpedo in the German political sphere. So what we see is that Hitler was a shrewd politician and a brave soldier. He was shown to be an aggressive nationalist in love with his country as he fought in the First World War and won 3 gallantry medals as well. So he was exactly what the people wanted. But apart from his capability to wield power and his fierce nationalism and all the good things he promised through his policies, what truly brought the people to him were his flawless oratory skills. Hitler has been described to be one of the best speakers of the modern era. In the 20th century, perhaps there hasn't been a speaker who had more skill and prowess such as Hitler. The people were drawn to him like moths are drawn to flame when he gave his speeches, his fierce, patriotic and nationalistic speeches. So through his emotional speeches, Hitler was able to truly tap into the deep sentiments of the German public. He was able to bring out all the frustrations and all the anger that the German public had and was able to target them towards his own public enemies, the enemies of the state, and towards minorities and the politicians. Therefore, not only helping him clear out his way towards political prominence, but also gaining the support of the public. So Hitler was able to exploit the psychology of the Germans, truly utilize and truly exploit all the frustration and discontentment and all disturbances the German public felt, and try to be the answer to them. As we already have seen, Hitler actively encouraged the public to dismiss and to reject the Treaty of Versailles and its terms. He also wanted to be the answer for the public, to be the strong leader they demanded, and also the Nazi party to be the answer to solve all the economic troubles and hardships they face. So therefore, Hitler was not only tapping into the psychology of the Germans, he was also exploiting it by giving them the illusion that he has everything that they want, and it is only by putting him as their leader that they will achieve that. Therefore, Hitler assured that the Nazi ideology, his ideology, and of course his leadership, without which nothing is possible, was the only injection, the only answer to the economic anemia which Germany is facing, to the political instability that Germany is facing, to all the humiliation Germany had faced after the war, and to all the sentiments which the Germans had against the minorities. Only Hitler could solve it for the Germans, and he, through his convincing oratory skills, was able to put these thoughts deep into the minds and hearts of the Germans. And the German public also did not hesitate to follow Hitler's words and to popularize his movement and to also fuel his party's rise to prominence, and finally establishing Hitler as the leader of their nation, not knowing what lay in store for them. Thus, in this lesson, we saw the final few causes behind the rise of Nazism in Germany. We focus upon the anti-Semitic propaganda of the Nazi party and Hitler, which was the base behind its racialist policies. We also saw how Hitler was able to utilize the German militant nationalism and the militant nature of the German nation itself for his advantage, and finally how he was able to build a cult of personality around him through his charismatic leadership abilities and his convincing oratory skills. All of these causes, supplemented with the other causes we have discussed in the previous few lessons, led to the ultimate rise of Nazism in Germany. In the next lesson, we would be now focusing on the formation of the Nazi government and how Hitler truly became the leader and eventually the dictator of Germany. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.